Hi, welcome to Car Mechanical. Today I'm going to take you through how to install your Android head unit in your Audi A4 B6 or B7. So I've got an Eonon unit. This is a full Android head unit that's got loads of features, so I'm going to take you through the full install, some of which involves taking out more of the dash than you'd actually expect. So the first thing is to take out the original stereo. Now I will make a few apologies, there are some bits of the video that are in slightly weird order, that's due to filming how I actually did it. And the other apologies, I'm putting these keys in the wrong way. The keys need to face with the tab facing the inward side of it. Now I've had my head unit in and out loads of times, and as such the release keys aren't that sort of great. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the head unit out. So we need to put all four keys in so they release the head unit, and then we're going to jiggle it from side to side and pull it back. Now when you see me taking this off in a second, what you are going to see is that a little bit of it wants to fall off. This isn't down to how I'm taking the head unit off, this is because I've had it out a number of times. I tried to make a modification to wire an aux in onto it. I tried to do it on the CD side of it, so I've had the whole head unit apart. However, where I wanted to go to was a digital input, not analog input, so it wouldn't work for the jack. The head unit actually works regardless of being fully stripped down, it's just not put together as tightly as perhaps it should be. So once we've got the head unit out, we can get to the wiring at the back. So we need to remove the three plugs, the antenna plugs as well, and I'm just going to show you how to do that here. So they come off nice and easily. So we've got the aerial adapter, we've got the factory plug, and then we've got these three plugs here that will unclip, and for the new head unit they're just going to clip into there as well. So we've got a lot more connections to take account of on a new head unit. It isn't a straight swap in such that you're just going to put those on and away you go. We've also got other inputs. So before we start connecting everything together, one thing you need to make sure you do with the head unit is they'll have a couple of screws on top. You need to take those out of place, and those are just to hold the DVD drive to keep that in place so it's not rattling around during delivery. They just undo nice and quickly, and we can go back to connecting everything up at the back of the head unit. And as you can see from the diagram on top, there's a number of things that we need to put in. So we're going to connect this with the 3-plug connector. Now there is also the other type of connector that you do get on some Audis as well. Luckily they give you both in a box. I've shown this in an unboxing video. So what we have is all sorts of things that we need to connect into the back. There's also optional extras you might go for. Now we're going to put the RCAs in. Now all of these are numbered in the booklet. They're also labelled on top, and you're just going to put these in one at a time. And important to note here, I'm going to come back to it later in the video, some of the RCAs need connecting for the rear speakers to work. Now that might sound very odd because normally you plug in your ISO connections and that will sort your rear speakers out, but for some reason they've decided to pass the RCA through to other connections on the main harness, and that will work. Now what we also need to do is we need to connect certain parts for the antenna system because it's a powered amp on the Audi. So you have the plug that I've got in my left hand and the one I've just picked up in my right is connected. That's the remote wire. Also important to know that's your remote wire because you may want to use that for a sub at some point. And you've got your little antenna adapter. Now I'm going to come back to the antenna more in another video because I had issues with my antenna. That might be more the car. Now you have two USB plugs with this, so you're going to put both of those in. And they can be used for various things. I'm just using mine for mass storage. However, I'm tempted to switch one over and use it for my 3G connection. That is for the rear reversing camera. So we're going to plug that one in as well. And then as we move on, I'm just going to quickly show you where you put the GPS antenna and also where you put the Wi-Fi antenna. So they connect on there. Now we're not going to install them properly at this point on the head unit because we need to take certain things off the car so we can run the wires and hide everything so they're not very obvious. You know, we can actually stealth a lot of this. And just quickly to show you the various connections that you can have on the back. So we're going to plug those 3 connectors in. It's actually a little bit easier whilst you are doing this. Now one thing I might recommend, maybe put a towel over your gear knob. I'm replacing mine, so at some points I have done it, at others I haven't. And here's just a quick sort of guide for where you want the antenna hooked up. Now, in order to install the head unit, what I need to do is I need to get the glove box out. I've done a full video on getting the glove box out and back in, but I'm just going to briefly cover some things here. So we're going to undo, I think it's 5 8mm bolts. And you've got the 3 there, you've got 2 underneath, and then we can pull the glove box out. So when we pull the glove box out, there'll be a little light connection as well. Now you could just drop the glove box and that's enough access for you, but if you want to take it out of the way completely, you're going to disconnect the light part that I'm going to show you, and that's going to give you full access to everything. However, when all the bolts are undone, the glove box will just pull out and there's a little light switch I've mentioned to undo. Now, if you do take the glove box out, what I recommend doing is this little tab at the back. Give it a snip from different sides, use a screwdriver to work it out. We're going to pass the RCA cables through there later, so that's for like the USB and also any external inputs. Now going to the driver's side, we're going to do a few other 8mm, so there's an 8mm here, and there's 2 underneath, and that's going to drop this surrounding trim cowl around the steering wheel, and that's going to be where we're going to run the GPS antenna and also the microphone, because the stereo's got Bluetooth. So we could actually make Bluetooth phone calls through the phone using the Bluetooth connection. So when you take the bolts out, you're going to use a plastic trim tool. Don't use a screwdriver because you don't want to scratch things up, and that's going to drop down and you're going to be left in this position. So we're going to start on both sides. We're going to put the Wi-Fi antenna on the side it needs to go onto and the GPS antenna on the side it needs to go to, and we're going to find reasonable places to put these. Now the GPS antenna is magnetic, so I found somewhere reasonable to stick that. I've just put it up here towards the back of the dash. Now where you choose to put that yourself may differ slightly. So what we're going to do in a minute, we're going to turn the head unit on. By this point I've actually put the CAN bus connector on. I've connected everything else up on here as well. So I've not shown those individual bits. It's all in the instruction book, but you do need to make sure that you've got the CAN bus connector connected, or the CAN bus decoder, because of it won't power up without that. So I'm making sure I've got both the GPS antenna hooked up here and the Wi-Fi aerial, and I'm going to test those, but the main one I'm going to quickly show you after I'll run all the wiring back in is the GPS. So we're going to go onto the sat nav and we're just going to make sure that it picks up where we are, because we don't want to put everything back in and learn that we don't have any access to it. I've also tested the Wi-Fi by this point, but the GPS is the one that might give you the most bother. Now what you've also got here is I mentioned about the RCAs. These particular ones I'm connecting here, if they're not connected, the rear speakers won't work. That sounds counterintuitive because of every head unit setup I've ever used has run through the normal harness, but on this one you need to connect those. Now the microphone I've not finished putting in up to this point fully because I've not tucked it behind the A pillar or the B pillar there, but what you just need to do is just tuck the wire into one side and to run it under the cowl, and then you can run that through the back as well. So now we've got all that wiring in place, we can put the glove box back into place and we can put the driver's side trim back into place as well. And we also need to hook up the antenna. Now I'm going to come to the antenna more on a separate video because I've got a separate issue with that. And also mentioned some of this was shot out of sequence, so I actually ended up putting the driver's cowl back in place and not filming it. It's literally just 3 volts, it will lift back up, you can knock it back into place. Make sure the wires are run underneath it nice and neatly. However, you just put that into place quite easily, and with all of these wires, with the glove box being out, you can pull them and position them in such a nice way that the head unit will just push in. So when you put the head unit in, you want to push it until it clicks. I also had an issue with the head unit fitment on here, in that it's a bit too tall and out of alignment, and it's catching on the coffee cup holder, the hazard switch and the ESP switch. Now I adjusted the brackets a little bit, but ultimately I think I'll need to take the head unit out and shave a little bit off the top of it that you won't ever see, just to make things looser. But yeah, initially the coffee cup holder wouldn't even come out, and even now it's a bit tight. So in the glove box earlier, you saw me notch out that little hole, or rather take those tabs off so I could run the wiring through. And what I've got running through to there is my video input, my aux input, and the 2 USB inputs. So when the glove box is back in place, if I ever want to plug any of that in, I'll just open the glove box up. And the Wi-Fi antenna I'm sticking here, now after testing it, it wasn't the strongest signal here, but I want it hidden and not seen. I could put it on a dash, or I could maybe move it up into one of the pillars, but for now I've decided to put it here. They do have an adhesive backing. I've just zip tied it into place, which keeps it nice and tight, and should I want to move it down the line, I can use that adhesive backing. But also if I want to take it off for any sort of maintenance, I can just cut the zip ties and I don't have to deal with any sticky backing. So the glove box, you put it back into place. Again, I've put a link for the video in that down below, but it's just those bolts to put them back in. We can nip all of that up. We've done the driver's side, but not in the video, and we can actually get around to seeing how the head unit works. Now one of the nice things is when you boot it up, it will come on with the brand logo for Audi, and then it will come on with the head unit's branding. Now being Android, you can change that, you can get into the settings, and there's loads of tweaking that you can get into on this. So I'm going to show you a couple of bits and pieces. This is the stock music player. I'm going to be replacing that down the line with some Android software that I prefer. You've got the Bluetooth software on there as well. I'm going to go into YouTube in a minute and I'm going to show you just how that works. I've got this connected over Wi-Fi at the moment, but eventually I'll be using a 4G dongle. So I'm going to go into YouTube, I'm going to search for my channel, and then I'm going to play part of one of my videos. I think I had to go into that to pause the music before I went into YouTube. I didn't want it overplaying 2 tracks at once. So we're going to go into my channel, we're going to find one of my videos. This is actually one from when I was driving in Japan and driving to Mount Fuji. So after I scroll through the videos to get to there, I'm going to skip the advert, I'm going to play you a little bit of music. I'm just going to skip across a few segments. So you can see it skips nice and quickly and it searches quite quickly over the Wi-Fi. The sound quality that's being played here, this isn't me taking the tracks and putting them into the mix for this video. This is the video being recorded on my camera and picking up the sound from the car. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the equalizer, and I'm just going to show you where I've got it set up. If you see here, that little dot is the positioning of the sound focus. Now I've equalized things towards the back a little bit, and this is because of the speakers in the car are rear amps and the subs at the back, and you need to push it backwards to equalize things out. Okay guys, that's it for the install of the Android head unit. I will be doing another few videos to cover some specific things around the software side of the setup and some of the issues I've had with it. But in terms of you getting your Android head unit and setting it up, this should give you all of the steps that you need to go through. Now some of the things in the video are slightly out of sequence because I've had it in and out a few times, and for me that's part of my recommendation to you, to avoid having to do this in multiple steps. Try and do it all in one. Take the glove box out, take the driver's side trim down, and run those bits and pieces, because it will save you a lot of time in the long run. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this on the channel, please hit the subscribe button. If you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button. Please leave any comments or feedback in the comment section down below. And more than anything, thank you for watching.